included in the email distributions from the town. With me on this Zoom conference meeting from the town of Lewisboro are members of the town board, Jen Castellano, Jane Crimmins, Tony Gonsalves, and Dan Welsh. We have a quorum and can vote on any matters that come before the board. Also with us are Town Attorney Anthony Millay, Town Clerk Janet Donahue, Joel Smith, Facilities Maintenance Director. Anybody else? No. At the public comment periods, we ask that only the following persons will be permitted to speak: residents of the town of Lewisboro, Katona-Lewisboro School District, owners of property in the town of Lewisboro, employees of the town of Lewisboro. If you want to speak at the public hearing or make a public comment, please raise your hand at the appropriate time. To do that, if you are on Zoom, put your cursor at the bottom of the window and you should see an image of people labeled participants. Click on that to get a panel on the right-hand side with icons at the bottom. You can then click Raise Hand. Participants who have raised their hand will show up on the host screen in the order that you raised your hand. The host will then unmute you and tell you that you have the floor. You may also have to unmute yourself if your microphone isn't active. We are also asking that your video be off during the duration of the meeting and only turned on when invited to speak. If you dialed in on a phone, you can raise your hand to indicate you want to talk by pressing *9. We will ask people to give their name and which hamlet in which they live upon entering, and to keep their comments to 2 minutes. Our town clerk will be keeping time and you will hear a timer at the end of the 2 minutes. If someone is disrespectful, uses profanity at this meeting, they will be asked to leave the virtual meeting, just as they would be asked to leave a physical meeting. Please remember that your camera is on and profanity will not be tolerated in any form, including gestures and acronyms. Now, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I plan to have contrary to what the agenda says, I plan to have two sets of public comments tonight. The first one will be on everything except the cell tower. The second one will be on the cell tower after I had given an update on developments since the last meeting. Does anybody wish to make a public comment other than on the cell tower?
Peter, I have one hand up right now, so I invite Adam Oakes to unmute. There he is.
Thank you. Thank you. Just good evening, everyone. I just would like to read the following statement. We had emergency I'm from the town of Lewisboro, Hamlet of Vista. I would like to read the following statement. We at Emergency Management want to extend our thoughts and prayers to the 2 Los Angeles County Sheriff deputies that were ambushed, shot, and critically injured while sitting in their marked patrol unit on regular patrol on 12 September 2020. That they fully and successfully recover from their injuries that they have suffered. Additionally, we want to extend our caring and support to the deputies' families, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and to the Los Angeles community as a whole. Additionally, we want to express our support, encouragement, hope for our neighbors in our western and Pacific Coast states as they are dealing with devastating wildfires. Our sympathies go out to all those that have lost their lives and have been injured by these fires. We want to thank and praise all those that are battling these blazes and those who are supporting them. We also want to wish our neighbors in the Gulf states well wishes as they yet again prepare and brace for the impacts of another hurricane, which is expected to make landfall later this week. Adam Oakes, Lewisboro Emergency Management.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
I have another hand that's risen. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, this is Carol Cernak at 70 Spring Street South in South Salem at Farview Farm. I would like an update from the town of Lewisboro on the arrangements that the town has with Hickory Homes and the Westchester Tree Trust regarding the dumping of timber that's coming outside of the town and being ground, and also the sifting operation. Not sure what's going on there. So also in the past couple of weeks, I've noticed town trucks and vehicles pushing soil into the wetlands, just to the left of the driveway as you enter the salt dump site. Be nice to have an open conversation about everything that's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. That appears to be it, Peter, for public comment.
All right, I'd like to move on to communications. There are quite a few this evening. First of all, the COVID-19, I'd like to update you on that. Quite honestly, because it's not all good. On the 2nd of September, Lewisboro had 4 cases. On the 14th, they had 8. Okay, that's just Lewisboro. But what's more worrying in my mind is that if you combine Lewisboro and our immediate neighbors, North Salem, Pound Ridge, Bedford, and Somers, we only had 22 on the 2nd of September, and we now have 47, which is more than 100% increase. I think that we have got to acknowledge that that is a real increase. It is hard. Certainly we can't blame kids going back to school for that. We may be, some of it may be a result of kids going back to college with their, and getting it at college, and then it being attributed to one of our towns on the basis of their home address. That said, it is also pretty obvious to me from personal observation that if you go to games being played at very legitimately at Honor Troop or at any other park in town, you are likely to see people, spectators, watching those games and and far from universal mask use. I would say when I've looked, normally about 25% at the most are using masks. And a lot of people are certainly not social distancing. They are standing close to each other on the sideline to cheer on their kids. Cheering on their kids is great, but not when you're standing really close to the person next to you on the sideline. Now, an increase of over 100% in less than 2 weeks is not that good. Next, there is a letter here from Liza Brotman of the Community Center for Northern Westchester. It is addressed to Dana Maitland. Firstly, thank you to the Lewisboro Parks and Rec Department for their continued generosity. The center has recorded a huge donation of food, 1,675 pounds donated yesterday, $200 in cash, and one online donation in honor of Lewisboro Parks and Rec for $51.50. All of this on July 2nd. That is quite honestly a magnificent amount. And I would like to thank everybody in town who donated, Dana, and who was the key organizer, and Jane Crimmins, who was one of the key instigators of this. Jane, do you want to say anything at this point?
I want to say that for anybody who had a chance to read Barbara Flockman-Gioni's letter to the editor and the record review, that the Parks and Rec Department certainly are the unsung heroes of our community. And so I just want to echo my thanks to Dana. And then it was on my to-do list to invite 3 of our youngest volunteers over the summer to come and get some acknowledgement this evening. And then I never followed up. So maybe for the next meeting, I'll we'll be able to present them with like a certificate of appreciation. But for now, I just want to mention that it was my daughter Lucy and Ethan Mishler and Megan Venkatraman. And so I want to thank our youngest volunteers for already having the heart of a Lewisboro citizen.
Thank you, Jane. I would also like to thank Greenway for their contribution, where they made it really easy for anybody who shopped at Greenway to buy a bag full of $10 worth of food. And then Dana, you, Jane, and a lot of other people went over there to collect them. Next, the library held a really fun event yesterday. The event was the historic Hamlet hunt, and it took you round the 5 hamlets of town and 3 locations in each hamlet which are of historical significance. My calculation, and Cindy Rubino may challenge this, is that there were over 200 people who did that trip around town yesterday. I think that was a first-class way for the library to raise money. Next, our census figure is now up to 78.2%. We're 10th in the list of Northern Westchester municipalities. I really want to turn that 78.2 into 80%. Finally.
Peter, just a clarification, is that 10th on the list out of Westchester County as a whole?
Yes.
Okay, because you said just Northern Westchester, okay.
Okay, sorry. Next, if you look at what's on channel 20, you may well see, or you will see, the 9/11 ceremony. You will also find it on Facebook and other media. It was, as I'm sure everybody knows by now, Vista, the Vista Fire Department has a piece of the downed World Trade Center, and they act as the town's center of remembrance for the dead on 9/11. They had a first-class ceremony, and because of COVID-19, we have filmed it, or it was filmed, and it is on channel 20. I think it's certainly on Facebook, and it should be on the town website as well.
It is.
I really suggest that those who haven't seen it or weren't there take 20 minutes, half an hour off to watch that ceremony and quietly remember the people who gave their lives on that day. Thank you. I'd now like to propose approval of the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of August 17th meeting and the monthly reports from the building and police department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jane, you were up there first, I think. So discussion, all in favor? Aye.
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 I'd like to move on to an item of new business. Discussion regarding processing of permit applications where existing wetlands violations or unpaid fines remain unresolved. I like this idea, particularly if we add Anthony Malay's suggestion was that we do not allow it to prevent the curing of wetland work, so that a permit could be issued to address that issue, allowing the corrective work to be performed. A good many other municipalities do this when open violations are existing. That strikes me as rather sensible. Anthony, do you want to comment at all?
Certainly. So this came about through an email from the planning board's attorney to me, to the town board, where they had a particular application where the property owner had a significant amount of wetlands violations from the past that I guess had been converted to civil judgments, and they had not been yet collected by the town. So in speaking with Judd, we were kind of opening it up a bit to, well, if we're going to do this, it probably makes sense not only for wetland violations, but basically overall to put in the code that if you're going to submit an application for something, some type of approval with regard to your property, whether it be a planning board approval, zoning board, building department permit, you can submit and you can have your application processed, but you can't receive an approval or a permit of any kind until any open violations are cured or any outstanding fines paid. The exception to that, as Peter said, would be if you're applying to one of the boards for the purposes of curing an existing violation, obviously we shall let them do that and issue that approval. So if the board's inclined to do that, I can put some language together. It would fit into a couple different sections of the code, and then we can review it and move forward with it.
I have a question. Can a property go from one owner to another with open violations?
It can. Typically, they do municipal searches on a sale, and if any open violations come out, the seller's not going to agree to close on. The buyer's not going to agree to close on the property until that violation is cured or money in escrow to deal with it or what have you. But
Okay.
yeah, typically the issue you run into there though is if there's a violation on a property that has not been issued as a violation, but it exists. So sometimes your home inspection would, your municipal inspection would show that. So it's usually addressed prior to the closing.
Okay.
Does everybody agree? Sorry, Tony.
I'm wondering if there are any other extant circumstances besides the curing of a wetland violation itself, like if there was something where there was, an imminent safety issue that threatened, people's safety. Obviously, all building code stuffs are about safety, but something, that the building department deems to be an imminent threat to people or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dan. I could put some of that language in there to address any immediate concerns for safety as determined by the building department. Or, it would be the building department usually.
Unless anybody has anything else to say, I'd like to ask Anthony to draft that for our next meeting. at which point we can review it, and if we like it, we can set a date for a public hearing.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Is this something
Discussion?
that we see commonly in other towns?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
You know, I think it makes a lot of sense to move forward on something like that. It gives us an opportunity to not lose out on those fees and make sure that people are, you know, obeying the code.
Yeah. And there is, unfortunately, a fairly large amount of work done in this town and every other town, I think, in northern Westchester, which without permits
Right.
and which contradict the wetland laws of the towns. Thank you, Anthony, if you go forward with that. Next, we've now reached the point where we can actually sell the town property at the corner of Lake Shore and Truesdale Lake Drives. I think it could be worthwhile for potential buyers of this property to explore any lake rights which are attached to this property. Finally, my own feeling is if somebody makes an offer of $5,000 or more for the property by the end of 2020, we should accept it and give them the property. What do others think?
Is this going to be an auction, Peter?
I don't think so. I don't think it's worthwhile having an auction for this one property.
This is the property that has some lake rights but is unbuildable?
It's unbuildable. I don't want to say that it definitely has lake rights. I believe that anybody who wishes to buy it would be sensible if they found out whether it does have lake rights. And if it does, then maybe it is worth some money.
Okay.
We've talked
But
about.
I'm not going to guarantee to anybody, and neither do I think the town board should guarantee to anybody that they do in fact have lake rights.
And I'm just a little hesitant around the area of buildable versus not buildable, because we've seen plots that everyone for years said, oh, that's, you know, you can't build on that. And then somehow by hook or by crook, after, you know, 2 decades, it became buildable. And so at that price, I would like to have some restrictions on it, if possible, saying that it's, you know, that there's an agreement not to build on it.
I don't know. I mean, I've walked the property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a joke as a buildable lot. It's got a stream running through the middle of it, or a drain. Also, I wouldn't necessarily want to prevent the next door neighbor buying it and extending a walkway through it.
Well, so, you know, the restrictions could be written to allow certain things, you know, but I just feel like seen it happen so many times before, and who knows, maybe the, you know, maybe the thing dries up a bit, or there's something goes on, and, you know, is there some hesitation? I mean, do we want them to be able to build if someday?
No,
Well, I don't know, 20 years from now, if, you know, I don't know, like you said, who knows what it looks like 20, 30 years from now. Sorry, Peter, I cut you off, but if it's not buildable, or we're not going to let it be buildable, or what have you, and it doesn't have lake rights, I'm kind of wondering who it's attractive to.
Yes, exactly. it is, if in fact that property became dry,
Right,
I don't see any reason why anybody shouldn't build on it.
right.
But for it to become dry is going to be like Moses crossing the Red Sea.
Mm.
Oh, that's my own point of view anyway.
All right. Well,
I've tried holding
A
out my
nice one.
arms and it doesn't
there
dry.
are two properties in my head that for decades, everyone was just like,
I know.
and you know, it just,
So Peter, I have a question. So the price tag of $5,000, is that because in your view, it's not buildable?
Yes.
But so should we first make that determination whether indeed it's buildable or not? And maybe
Well,
that-
right now it sure isn't buildable.
It
But we
is a
know that for
wetland.
sure.
It,
Right.
Yes.
it has a stream
We know
running
that for
through
sure.
it.
Okay.
And it's got skunk cabbage growing in it. And,
It's wetland.
and from what I know of wetlands, if you have skunk cabbage, you are a wetland, period, end out.
Right. I was just questioning that because you sounded like it wasn't, you didn't want to commit to making a statement that it's not buildable.
Oh, okay. Right at the moment it isn't. But Dan was asking me to guarantee that in 30 years' time, when there's been total climate change, it will still not be buildable. Can't promise that.
I mean, we could just consider restrictions on the deed for building. You know, I don't see that as not being a viable option available to us if that's the concern, is maintaining it even though it's currently a wetland and may not be in the future.
I think that's what
It's like
Dan
a-
was suggesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think
Asking if
that's the
those-
direction.
Okay. I'll ask Jen Herodes to, I guess it's Jen Herodes' area, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, well, if the board wanted to put a restriction on, the easiest way to do that, if you wanted the restriction to last, is put a restriction right in the deed. Do a deed restriction on the property before
Right.
conveying it.
And we contact the county to do that?
No, we would do that as part of the
We can?
transfer. And then I can
Okay.
come out with the county, yeah,
All right, can you move on that, Anthony?
certainly.
And
I could draft
I
a
would-
proposed deed and send it to the board to take a look at.
yeah, thanks a lot.
What's our noticing requirement if we're going to go the auction route for this? Just out of curiosity.
Wait, we have to put it in 2 newspapers, don't we, Janet?
I believe so, Anthony, and that would be Record Review and the Journal News that we have.
And that's
Okay.
either auction or any type of sale.
Yes,
Right.
any type of sale.
Yeah, I was going to say, you may want to note, even if you're not auctioning it, you may want to publish that it's for sale in the paper.
Right.
as well.
The only reason for, I might also want to put it in the Katona-Lewisboro Times.
It's a good idea.
Because that is put in every mailbox in town. And although I'd like to tell everybody that the Record Review has 100% circulation, I know full well it doesn't. Except around election time when the readership grows pretty dramatically. But otherwise, it doesn't have a dominant readership in this town. Not that the Westchester paper does either, but it's the best we can do. What we can also do is to put it on Facebook and to put it everywhere else where we can generate publicity.
How about something as simple as a sign on the side?
Yes, something as simple as a sign, but there is a legal requirement to publicize it in newspapers. And the Katona-Lewisboro Times does not qualify as a newspaper because you don't pay for it.
Mhm.
That's still true, Anthony, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as publicizing the sale, you kind of talk about 2 different things. So
Yes.
we already announced the sale legally. You've satisfied that requirement, waited the requisite period of time.
Okay,
Now you're really talking about advertising the parcel for sale, which is a different, unless you're
okay.
auctioning.
So
which
we don't have to put it in newspapers where we don't think
you
it's
don't,
going.
yeah, there's no specific requirement for that. You can advertise it as you see fit.
In that case, I think we'd do better to put it in the Record Review, the Katona Lewisboro Times, and every social media outlet which the town participates in, including the town's own website. That's a personal point of view which people can disagree with once we see the deed restriction.
No, I think
Thank
that's a
you,
great
Anthony.
idea.
Dan, would you like to give us an update, an information session regarding sustainable Westchester Power?
No, I wouldn't. I'd like Jasmine to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Hi, Jasmine.
Jasmine's muted. Janet's working on it right now.
okay.
Nice to see you again, Jasmine.
Is it Jasmine Graham?
Yes.
Yes.
There, Jasmine?
She's still muted.
Yep, I'm asking her to unmute.
There you go.
Oh,
Okay,
Will
yeah.
I also be able to share my screen?
Yes.
Joel, do I need to do anything?
Hi, everyone. Back again. Just as a reminder, Jasmine Graham, Westchester Power, Sustainable Westchester. I'm just here to give you all an update on the Westchester Power Program because we went out to bid. And so for those of you who don't know, which might just be some residents, the Westchester Power Program is a community energy program. There are 27 municipalities across Westchester in the program currently, including 5 out of 6 of the municipalities in NYSEG territory, Lewisboro included. You all have been participating since 2016. And in the most recent contract, which began in 2019, you switched to the green supply. So that's really exciting. It's backed by 100% New York State hydropower. And we are going into our 3rd contract beginning December 1st. So I've got a nice little short and sweet presentation for you all. We're going to talk about the bid results and the new contract information. So again, there's 27 municipalities in the program, 24, including Lewisboro, are in the green supply. And that makes up about 115,000 residents and small businesses across the county. This looks confusing at first, but I'll walk you through it. And essentially, these are the bid results for our most recent bid. And so this is the reverse bidding process. So the suppliers, we had 4 of them, which is up 100% from our last bid, in which we only had 2 suppliers. We're able to bid against each other, and as you can see, drive the price downward. So as expected, a 12-month contract comes in the lowest, and a 4-year contract, 48 months, comes in at the highest price point. And so for the standard supply, the best rate that we got was from Aligo Energy, and it's 6.719 cents for 12 months. And on the green side, Aligo also won, which we're grateful for because that makes it much easier to decide. And we came in under our not to exceed price and secured a rate of 7.19 cents for the green power. So as you can see, again, we've got people outbidding each other, trying to get the rates as low as possible. But we did know, and you can see it at the end, that we wanted to come in under that 7.2. So, like before, there's going to be a notification letter sent to residents. Everyone will be notified that the town is in the program, and they'll get all of the information on the new rates, the contract terms, how long it is, and how to call our office and how to opt out. So this is what the outside of the envelope will look like. And then
except it will have Lewisboro instead of Pound Ridge, I hope.
yes, yes. Yes. And so those letters are going to go out on October 5th. And then the 30-day opt-out period will start. We give it 4 days for everyone to receive the letter. And it'll be up until November 9th. And then beginning December 1st, depending on people's meter read.
My only question there is, we're coming right into the election period.
Right.
And I am wondering if 4 days for it to get to people is enough.
That's a good point.
I'd be happier if you gave it a full week.
Okay. So right now we're targeted to have the letters approved and given back to us from the PSC by September 28th. So there's certainly some wiggle room there. So we can leave a few more days. Absolutely. And then so beginning December 1st, people will be enrolled just as they were before. You have this 30-day opt-out period. You can send back the postcard. You can call our office. And there we go. You can call our office or you can opt out online. There's never any kind of fee or penalty for opting out. People can opt out during that 30-day opt-out period or anytime thereafter. Just know that when you do leave the program, if you choose to, it takes about 1 to 2 billing cycles for it to be reflected, just because we're always in the middle of a billing cycle. And until then, we will continue our outreach and education. We do try to get as much local and county press. You guys are just talking about the newspapers. We're always trying to get in those as well. We have, of course, our website, but we excitingly have a new YouTube channel, Sustainable Westchester Media, and we have some really informational videos on the Westchester Power Program, how to read your electricity bill, just frequently asked questions, etc. So I do encourage people to go check that out if they have more questions, or of course they can give us a call. We've got social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're always happy to come and do some kind of virtual information session. And hopefully, eventually, those will be back to in person at some point. So questions, comments, you can always give us a call or email us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Dan, do you have anything to add?
No, Jasmine covered it all. You know, the opt-out letters are going out, and we're working hard to get everything set up with the new supplier. The bidding mechanism with the auction was great because it really brought in new blood, and actually one of those new bidders took the contract. So we're happy to juice up the competition a little bit.
Great. Thank you so much, Jasmine. I really appreciated Supervisor Parsons' feedback about the time. I had kind of noted that 4 days might not be enough as well. So I also really appreciated your flexibility in the moment to say, sure, you know, September 28th, or maybe we can push it back a couple days. So thank you for that.
No problem. We definitely try to build flexibility into the schedule because we know that there's always things coming up. So
well,
we'll be happy
I also have
That's
noticed that my own car registrations are taking way longer than anybody would expect to get back to me. And that in fact, I've been driving an unregistered vehicle for several days. Because
you might not want to announce that in an open meeting, sir.
I sent the registration in on time, but they were not on time in getting it back to me.
That might not be the post office, though. That might be the DMV and their reduced staffing.
Some of those time frames, Peter, have been extended as well, so you may not be in violation.
Oh, you're thinking that I may be fine.
Thank you, Attorney Millay.
I actually was able to print out a temporary registration, so you might want to check out the My DMV website because
You really can relate.
I ran into the same problem.
All right. next thing, cell tower
Thank you.
update.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Jasmine.
We've been discussing putting a cell tower in South Salem and in particular next to the Salt Dome. We had applied over 2 years ago to join a northern Westchester group of towns which would come up with a master plan for constructing cell towers throughout northern Westchester. In other words, Bedford, Lewisboro, North Salem, Mount Kisco, Pound Ridge, Somers, and Yorktown. Quite honestly, and I think quite a lot of other supervisors had assumed that that had gone into a trash can somewhere in spite of our request and that nothing was ever going to happen. However, Kitley Coville, for which she should be much thanked, revived this proposal, pushed it through the county, and the county is funding this master plan for a fee of $190,170. It's not a cheap plan. It will be a 4-month process for these towns. So it should be, I'd love to say it will be ready by February, but quite honestly, granted the way these things go, I think it will be more like March or April before it's complete and delivered. This sounds like a total gift, and it is in terms of surveying this area of the county, which has been much neglected for this, and therefore has been subject to the individual telephone companies and people like Homeland Towers. The danger of this is at the moment, Verizon has segregated the amount of money necessary to do a tower at the Salt Dome. And there is no promise at all that by the spring, that money will not have been spent on other things. I'm sure you will have noticed if you've like me, you've been watching the US Open, you will know very well that that the big push by Verizon is not, unfortunately for fiber, is not any longer for cellular. It is entirely for 5G, and not just 5G generally, but 5G in the major cities where it makes sense. So there is a real possibility that by waiting for this master plan, we will end up with a master plan, but no progress. That said, quite honestly, I think we need to wait for it. And I would like to propose a motion that the town will suspend pushing ahead with a cell tower at the Salt Dome until or anywhere else in the town, until we've got this master plan.
Second.
Discussion? Jen, you were gonna?
No, I was just going to second. I think we can't really go forward without finding out what Cityscape's input is going to be. I think that's really important because we know that we have some gaps, and it's probably what Tony's about to mention. We have some gaps where we overlap with other towns like Bedford. So it would be very helpful to know where this other company regionally would want to see towers go.
Right. Yeah, and I have the same concerns as that you mentioned, Peter. If the budget dries up and we don't have funds, and here we are, March, April timeframe of next year, we have a master plan, but now we don't have carriers interested in putting their equipment having a tower built. In discussions that I've had with both AT&T and Verizon, they have indicated that that vicinity is a vicinity where we do need a tower, whether it's a salt dome or somewhere near it, in addition to other towers in town. So that's my only concern. So I'm in total agreement with having a third party give us their input. I just fear that the input is going to be, we need a tower there in that location or somewhere near there, as well as other spots. And then the carriers don't have the funds to put their equipment on the tower. That's my only concern. But I'm all in favor for the cityscape IMA.
All right. Thank you. End of discussion. Let's delay. I don't think we need a formal resolution.
Can we just one more item? Is it possible to, and I don't know if you've had this discussion with Homeland yet, to have them, for example, do a balloon test so we can at least not wait until March or April to then do that, but do it in parallel to the cityscape study?
Okay, we could ask them to do that, but I have some conscience about asking them to spend their money because they've already spent I would guess, what, a couple of $100,000?
Possibly.
How much more do we want them to spend before we can offer them a reasonable chance of it going forward? Of course, you can argue, Tony, that granted that AT&T, Homeland Towers, and Verizon all believe that the Salt Dome is the right place for a cell tower, that the odds on that changing when Cityscape does their master plan is remote. The big plus, I don't know whether Cityscape will be able to have enough muscle to push this through. But one of the things which they are going to investigate is whether it is possible, for instance, to take the existing towers in Mountain Lakes, and there is also one in Bedford somewhere, and which are not currently available for any consumer use, but only for emergency use. They're going to, Cityscape is going to try to find out if there is any way to change those, to adopt those towers for consumer use.
Good.
I don't know if that will
That's
go
an important
anywhere or
piece.
not.
Yeah.
And they would examine what the potential coverage from that would be, and we can see how that overlapped. We need to know that.
Now, unfortunately, I'm being told fairly strongly that Mountain Lakes will not cover South Salem.
That's what I hear from AT&T as well.
All right, that's where we are on that, which is, in other words, we're going to suspend all action except for the possibility of a balloon test until that master plan is available to us.
Okay.
Sounds logical.
Anybody wish to talk? No. All right then. I've got, all right. Tony, you were going to give a highlights of what's where we are in Oak Ridge Water and Sewer.
Yeah, so I'm planning on having a district-wide meeting, and we're targeting October 1st. But I think for tonight's purpose, just an overall, in case there's any residents that live in Oak Ridge, and they want or are not aware of what's been going on. So we have a couple of things. We had, number one, we have power outages, right? So we have that Power Ridge Circuit, which has, there has been, although fewer outages than used to be, the times that there are outages, they are brief. And that's because of these recloser units that NYSEG have installed. So when they detect, for example, a branch touching a line, power line, the circuit gets opens up. So power is lost. The recloser then checks to see if it's safe to turn that circuit back on. And that's been the cause of these 6-second, 7-second outages that have occurred. So one thing I agreed to with NYSEG and they have done is they installed monitoring equipment both at the Vista Fire Department and at the water plant. So they're going to monitor for several weeks. They did this on September 3rd. They're going to monitor the power. And at the same time, they were running on an analysis on these recloser units to see if they need to be reprogrammed or readjusted in any way. And hopefully that'll help us identify what is the cause of these outages. They're blaming it on trees, but they have just completed their tree trimming, which was running through the month of August along that circuit. And based on their visual inspections, they don't see any major issues with trees at this point, except with a few private properties where the owners have not permitted them to trim back any trees. So that's one thing that we're working on. The other one is the quality of the water. So the 7 wells that provide water to the water plant, they're all very high in iron and manganese content. And according to the operator of the plant, DRI, that's contributing to some of the discoloration. So they're trying to mitigate that. But at the same time, there's been a lot of sediment built up in the mains. And they flushed the system on August 24th. They're doing another flushing on September 16th, this Wednesday. And they're planning on going from quarterly flushes of the system to, biannual, or twice a year, to quarterly potentially. So they need to get Department of Health update to or approval to do that. So those are some of the things that are going on. I mean, we're looking at also any other improvements that may be needed. But right now, the flushing, according to DRI, they feel that the flushing, after that first flushing, they feel the second one is going to resolve a lot of the, or eliminate a lot of the sediment buildup that is in the lines currently. So that's where we are. But we will have, and I'm targeting again October 1st to have a meeting with the entire district and the town board, and we'll get VRI on that in that meeting as well, together with the Delaware engineering. And by then we'll have some details, hopefully get some feedback from NYSEG on the work they're doing, and updates from VRI on the flushing that they've performed. So that's where we are. Oh, and the third item is we are looking at, we started discussions with Aquarian, who manages water supply in Connecticut, and the potential of them becoming a water source to the plant. So very early discussions. You're going back, discussing it internally, and sometime in October we expect to have a follow-up call with them. That's all I have, Peter.
Okay. I'd like to, I've got an add-on. The
Westchester cycle, right, Peter?
Yes.
Dana's
Westchester.
add-on.
Yes, that's the add-on. The Westchester Cycle Club, in the person of Amy Goldman, the events chair, has requested the use of the town park on either Sunday, October 11th or Saturday, October the 10th, the Saturday being their second choice, from 1 to 6 p.m. They would time it so that there were never more than 25 people there at any one time. They would be asking the attendees to sign up in advance for a 1-hour time slot. They would use 1 to 2 for setup, and 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 6 for refreshments and beverages. those beverages would include a liquor permit.
Is this as a final stop or a starting point or a way station?
I'm not sure that they even cycle to get here. I think it's, I mean, they are encouraging people to bring masks. They are expected to provide their own food and their own drink. I don't think this is like the cycle stops, which they have proposed in the past. I think this is a social event
Okay.
for members of the cycle club, where they probably would drive in and and bluntly, they would have short parties and discussions about the cycle club. What do people think? I've got my own point of view, but everybody is, I am very willing to listen to people.
I think the challenge here is that although they're staying within, the guidelines for, phase 4 or phase 4+, and it's an outdoor event, they're still pulling people from all over the county. It's not just Lewisboro residents. And I think it does pose some challenges for us in hosting something with a sizable group in and out over there.
And do you have a sense of what Dana's at, and do you have a sense of how she feels?
I do not think that they are in favor, for the same reason, for current COVID restrictions. And at the same time, who knows where we'll be in October, when this event takes place. And, she was very honest about that too. Obviously, it would be pursuant to any guidelines in place at that current time. I think it's just hard to look forward at this point when we keep seeing over and over that we can anticipate a second wave. We're seeing our own numbers in town go up slightly. It's hard to make a responsible next decision when you're looking
Slightly,
at public health issues.
Honest, doubling in this area of the county.
Right.
Well, so
Doubling
I'm hearing-
is not a slight increase.
So I'm hearing reservations from you and Jen and Dana. So as little thought as I've given this, I would lean in that direction of conservative in terms of the help with the kids just opening school, with people coming from all over the county, and with our numbers doubling. Peter, I heard you loud and clear at the beginning of the meeting and really appreciated that communication, because 4 to 8 is a doubling of a number. We don't want to go from 8 to 16 and 16 to 32. And we're expecting that second wave, according to our Office for Emergency Management, Adam Oakes. We're expecting that, not just Adam, but like scientifically, right? The scientific community is expecting this second wave in September. So I just don't think we should, I don't know, when was this for, but we shouldn't do anything to kind of like.
It was for October 10th and 11th.
It was October 10th and 11th, so it's a little later than September. Nonetheless, it's in that time frame. So
I think we really have to make a decision now.
Yeah.
Because in 2 weeks' time, we will be at the 28th of the month.
Yeah.
Which is a bit late for them to organize themselves.
So I think I was saying that I see your point of view and Jen's point of view, and we're leaning in that direction. So that was my feedback for helping move the decision along. I am talking about making the decision now.
I'm fine with that. It's kind of a shame to miss an opportunity to sort of bring in a group like this, and celebrate those things. But I'm fine to say it's not wise at this time and decline.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. Yes.
Okay, the answer is no then to the cycle club.
It's a great club too. Sorry,
Not
Westchester
because
Cycle
we
Club.
dislike the cycle club,
Not
but
at all.
because we really don't want to take that risk at this stage of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
I would like to propose that Oh, that we approve claims. I knew there was something to do. Do I have a second on approving claims?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to poll the board.
Peter, were you going to do a second public comment?
Oh, yes, sorry, I'd forgotten. Does anybody wish to make, the second public comment is obviously limited to the cell tower. Would anybody like to speak about that?
Right now I have 4 hands that went up, Peter.
Okay,
So right now I'm asking Kimberly Thompson to unmute. Yep, we hear you.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, good evening. I don't know if I have the option of starting video if you would like me to do that, but
Sure, if you want.
I wanted to be heard, please, actually on the issue of the water at Oak Ridge. And that's what I put my hand up for. Is that appropriate at this time?
not strictly, but keep it to the point, and the answer is yes.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much, Mr. Parsons, and to the board. I appreciate your indulgence this evening. I am a resident of Oak Ridge, and I'm gravely and deeply concerned about the quality of the water there. I have had conversations with various people, including people at VRI, and it has been conveyed to me that the main problem is that the wells and the system itself is antiquated and is not sufficient for the development, and that the stopgap measures that are being employed are simply not sufficient. And I took up residence there last fall, and since then I've learned from almost all my neighbors that nobody drinks the water for the most part. It's considered actually dangerous. The level of discoloration has been truly shocking to me, even with the use of filters, both in things like kettles, on faucets. And yes, there is significant discoloration. One of the concerns that I've also had is with the power outages, which occur on a regular basis, what happens to the water that comes through the systems immediately when they start up again? Is because the water wouldn't be tested immediately, so is it potable even at that point? So I think that this requires maybe some additional looking into by the board and by the town, because long-term, I've also heard that there are questions about marketability of the units in Oak Ridge and whether it's going to ultimately impact property values. Because is this something that we need to disclose to people who are perhaps interested in purchasing our units? So, thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Somebody else, but
Thank you.
please, there was a reason for not getting into a long discussion of Oak Ridge tonight. And that was that it was requested by the committee, which we have formed, that we not discuss Oak Ridge in any detail.
Peter, can I just ask Kimberly one question?
Yes.
Kimberly, are you in touch with the committee? With Erica, for example, Erica Agro, or?
Learning and what measures are in place and how to appropriately address the issues that come up. And it was a recent discoloration and sediment in my most recent issue that led me to contact Mr. Parsons and VRI, and I'm learning the system that is in place to address these problems.
And that probably occurred after the flushing on August 24th. You experienced a discoloration potentially.
No, I don't think it was related to that, actually.
No? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the town website, and we can have. I'll fill you in on what we've been doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I won't take up any more of the board's time, but I look forward to communicating with you directly.
Okay. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And next, I'm asking Susan Enos to unmute. Susan? Susan Enos, I'm asking you to unmute. Okay, maybe we'll come back to Susan. Simone, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, I know Peter, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, I know Peter, I'm just going to touch on the water very briefly. Tony, I understand that Erica asked for this issue to be on the agenda any night but tonight, and so it's going to be moved. She heads the Vistins for Safe Water. And just listening to the fact that we in Westchester County have a committee that's called Vistins for Safe Water makes me shudder. Oak Ridge is the one place in Lewisboro that is diverse and has homes available in moderate price ranges. It hasn't had drinkable water for over 2 decades. My mother is 82, and I have carried water up to her for 18 years. It's 2020, and I fail to understand how this is acceptable in a county that is taxed at one of the highest rates in the country. We just listened to a lengthy dissertation on a small piece of property we're selling, how privileged we are. These people don't have drinkable water. Think Flint, Michigan. It's shameful. Thank you.
Thanks, Simone. And just to add, I am working this, so you're right. It's been too long, 20 plus years. So we're involved. So we'll definitely come up with some solutions here.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
Okay, now I'm asking Susan Enos. I'll try again. Susan, you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, it's just a question. I'm so glad that we're going ahead with the county cityscape study on the cell phone towers. And I was just wondering if we do the balloon test, does that start the shot clock by federal law for Homeland Towers, the 90-day shot clock?
I don't think so. I think the only thing which starts that is us signing a lease.
No, that's not true.
Not true?
No, there are different, yeah, you need a complete application and things which we don't have at this point, but yeah.
So the application comes first and then you
They
do
have
the
to make an
balloon?
application for an approval. Then we have to move forward with that, but there first has to be a complete application
Okay, thank you very much.
for a specific approval.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Now I see Cheryl. I'm asking Cheryl to unmute.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Schwartz. I've been a resident of South Salem for 36 years, and I would like to add to Susan's comments about the balloon test and the shot clock. I think that would be unwise to allow a balloon test at any time before we have the results of the cityscape study, because if there is a chance that it will start the clock running, that decision could very well be taken out of your hands. So I would just urge you to bear that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. And then I have Carol Cernak. I'm asking you to unmute, Carol.
Hi, I would like to speak once again about the Salt Dome property and the potential of putting the cell towers there. The town is already in violation of the deed restrictions that was given to the town for the nature preserve that adjoins the Salt Dome property. If we're talking about quality water, the town has already polluted the stream that runs through it, and that runs into the Walkabuck River, into the Cross River Reservoir. So if we're talking about wetlands setbacks and environmental issues, the town needs to check what they're doing. And if there's a DEC setback variation, I would very much like to be a part of that. It's just a bunch of hogwash, and I'm happy to hear that it's put on hold for the county study, but I think you all are operating illegally over there, and you need to check your own rules and regulations. And I think a lot of people in the town feel the exact same way, tired of paying the fees and the fines and not being treated equally. I know this is a municipality, but you received a piece of property over just under 4.5 acres as a gift with deed restrictions. I have the paperwork. I also have photos of violations of dumping at the salt dump property. Be more than happy to share with anybody. Just let me know. 914-548-1555. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. And Supervisor, it looks like that's it for public comment.
In that case, I'd like to poll the board. Tony, why don't you begin?
Sure, yeah, I just want to thank the Vista Fire Department. They did a fabulous job in taping the 9/11 ceremony, which I was very happy to be part of. And the final compilation of the video was well done. So kudos to the Vista Fire Department for putting that together. Oh, and it is available on the Lewisboro TV YouTube channel as well, which wasn't mentioned before.
Dan.
Yeah, I'll second that. That video production was fantastic. It was a wonderful event and really well done. Just mention that in our last sustainability committee meeting, we did go back to the leaf blower issue, and it's agreed that, you know, at this point we're not looking to push the legislative button too hard at this point, but we'll look at a bunch of other things. And the one thing that I thought was kind of an interesting idea was to go out with put together a solicitation or an RFP for this type of landscaping services, and shop it around with interested people in town to see, hey, if this was available, would you be interested? If there's, you know, 100 people who sign up and say, well, that you know, I'd like to see what that was about, then we could shop it around and actually sort of ask the market, like, because we're getting a lot of messages from the landscapers that nobody wants it, but I'm not sure they've ever really been asked. So that's kind of an interesting little track, and we'll see if that gives us more input and moves the needle a little bit. We also had a visit from the Sustainable Westchester Electric Vehicle Director, Seth Lightman, and he did a dump of all the different things that are going on in his world. But the interesting piece was new car charger deals, and this is something we've been interested in for a while. And Tony reached out to the Golden Bridge Shopping Center, is trying to connect with them on that. Some of the options are basically no cash deals, or no, you know, they're funded entirely by the charging company. So that starts to get pretty interesting. And lastly, we talked a little bit more about the master plan, and I'm just curious. I think it seems to me that we should start to work on pulling this task force together, and soliciting interest in that, and because I know we definitely have interest in the committee to dispatch somebody to that task force.
Dan, just to add on the EV charging station, I did hear back from Bob Loria at the Lewisboro Shopping Center today. So he is very interested in having that discussion.
Great, let's set that up.
Jane.
I don't have much to add except, you know, to say that homeschooling has begun, and hybrid schooling has begun. So, you know, any parents with kids in school out there, I feel ya, and we're all in this together. I'm pleased to see that we'll be moving forward with the regional effort for the cell towers. I think that that is a very logical plan, and I'm happy to be moving in that direction. And that's the, and then I was just thinking, Dan, as you were talking about the sustainability committee, one thing I think about is putting something together for residents. Like, so you're a friend of the environment, or so you want to be a friend of the environment. Have you done these things? And like have it be a checklist, and have one of them be about, leaf blowers, and have you asked your landscaping company if they, can you commit to doing this year if you've already done these other things? So I kind of think about appealing to people's to people to make that change themselves, and that might help us move further along too. So it's kind of that two-pronged approach of the commercial, addressing the commercial business, then the resident, and maybe we can do a bigger legislative push once we have more information or more motivation from one or both of those places. So that's it. Just some feedback.
Jen.
I have some things from Dana from Parks and Rec. The learning lot started today, and the program went really well. They still have some room in both cohorts A and B for people who are still interested who haven't signed up yet. You can check the website for any fall programming. They're not going to be sending out a brochure this year, so everything will be on the website, and they continue to add additional programs daily. Currently, there are tennis classes, pickleball, hiking, adult yoga, Zumba, open court time, and basketball, just to name some of the items offered. She touched on the food drive already at the beginning, which was a huge success and a wonderful volunteer effort in town. And I also want to thank the Vista Fire Department. I know Dan participated as part of the Color Guard. It's really a wonderful way to honor those lives lost and to participate in a moment of silence and reflection for 9/11. So I'm glad they were able to continue that this year and that tradition.
And when you say
Brian
Dan,
Porco for the video, my Dan, yeah.
You mean Dan Castellano,
Dan
not Dan
Castellano,
Welsh.
not Dan Welsh.
Who is also a firefighter, Dan Castellano
Yeah.
is, right?
And EMT, yes.
Right, okay.
Okay, a couple of things. I'd like to reinforce what Jen just said about the 3 L's, and compliment our Park and Rec department, which has managed to be one of the very few, has made us one of the very few towns in Westchester which have any program to help kids on the off days from school. And I think that Dana deserves, together with Reed and Michael, who've worked with her on this, an enormous amount of praise for making that happen. It wasn't easy. The first answer they got was, no, it cannot be done. Oh, yeah, it can be done, and we can get you permission to do it sometime in November or December. They managed to find a way to do it at the beginning of school today. The second thing, people are presumably, they should be just about aware of Governor Cuomo's mandate that there be, or executive order, about New York State Police reform and reinvention. This is every municipality with its own police force has to do this. It's going to be rather, it's going to be confined really to looking at our existing protocols and policies for the police force and working out if they meet the needs of our community, not if they meet the needs for New Rochelle, or if they meet the needs, or if they meet the needs for Mount Vernon, but if they meet the needs for Lewisboro. That said, one of the first things that the committee which we formed to do this should do is to listen to the people in town. So we are setting up a public meeting for people to express themselves on what they want from a police force in Lewisboro and what they believe the priorities for that police force should be. And that public meeting will be on the 24th of September at 7 p.m. The 24th of September at 7 p.m. We are going to do our best to offer people the option of going to the court if they really are people who want to be face-to-face. But for the majority of people, it will have to be on Zoom. I think we can maybe get 20 people into the courtroom and maintain social distancing and everything else. But with that low limit, that means that only the first people to sign up will be able to be actually in the room, and the rest will have to be Zoom present. I'll send out an email on that very shortly. But it is important that if you've got something to say, then is the time to say it. Or to just send us an email or send me an email at any time about this, but preferably either before or on the 24th of September. Because after that, the committee is going to be at work redrafting, which is going to be a tedious process. And I've had the privilege of watching the county do this for the county police force. And this is not fun and games. This is deadly word for word process. Thank you very much, but I'd really like to hear from people. 4th of September. Yes?
Peter, if I could interrupt, I think Dave Alfano has his hand up, so I'm just going to ask him to unmute if he wants to talk.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Peter, I sent you a text earlier. I just want to...
I'm sorry.
I checked the courtroom tonight because we had court, and there's not enough room to hold the committee meeting there. So we're going to have to do it just on Zoom.
Okay. Sorry.
Not a problem.
We looked, and you should be praised for looking, but back to Zoom, period. Thank you. The next board meeting will be on Monday, September the 28th at 7:30 via remote access. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session in order to discuss appointments to a committee.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.